they're like, I couldn't do what you do. If this happened to me, I couldn't. I said, you don't know until you've been tested. You really don't know. Because if you would have told me, hey, guess what? You're going to get blown up. Your head's going to be burnt to the skull. You're going to lose your left hand. You're going to have all these issues. You can't walk. You got to stay out in the sun. And all this stuff's going to happen to you. But you know what? You're going to survive it all. And you're going to make jokes about it. You're going to travel the world telling jokes about how this happened to you. Like, right. Sure, I'm going to do that. Whatever.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of American Snippets. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Today's guest is an Army veteran who is the sole survivor of an IED explosion. The catastrophic injuries he miraculously survived left him severely disfigured. He required years of hospitalizations and surgeries, but with all the focus of treating his physical wounds, the hidden wounds is what festered. He plunged into a deep depression that could easily be attributed to the scars he bears, the arm that he lost, and the altered appearance caused by all of those injuries. While he was struggling through all of those things, the most dangerous wounds he actually faced were the result of survivor's guilt and post-traumatic stress. It's been 13 years since that explosion, and our guest, Bobby Henline, is now fully immersed in a new life. He is a successful speaker, entrepreneur, and comedian. He is engaged to the woman that he loves. His relationships with his kids are thriving, and he has found a way to use all of his experiences to guide and support others faced with their own trauma. In this episode of American Snippets, Bobby Henline talks about his 30-year path from a 19-year-old divorced alcoholic veteran to his return to military service, his life as a survivor, mentor, comedian, and founder of a nonprofit. He shares his lessons on resilience, how his experience altered his faith, and how to find a positive outlet to channel trauma. He also shares his recent experiences of how he unwillingly was drafted into a political battle and how that changed his own practice of expressing his political views. So without further ado, here is Barbara Allen with Bobby Henline.
Hey there, welcome back to another episode of American Snippets. I'm your co-host, Barb Allen. Dave Brown just did an excellent job giving a background and introduction to today's guest, who I am very excited to have the opportunity to connect with and interview after working on this for a couple months. Bobby Henline, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Of course, I appreciate you lowering your standards and having me on.
Yeah, well, TK begged us, please. I mean, he can only get people like Huckabee to put him on. You gotta raise the game for him. So,
live it up to TK there for you.
Yeah. So we'll do anything to help out a veteran, But look, we were just talking right before we started that you have been a busy man lately. But as I dug into you in the past, and I went all the way back to your very first Instagram post, by the way. That's how far I went.
Wait, that was a catching a fish in Canada.
Yes. I was wondering if you remember that. Yes, it was a pike, I think.
Yes.
Yes, it was. So, I mean, you've been busy this whole time, but it looks like you're just busy by nature. Like by the time you were 17, you were already packing in quite a few experiences in your world.
Yes. By the age of 19, I was a divorced alcoholic war veteran.
Yes. I mean, that's...
Get it done, get it over with.
Yeah. Let's just jump right in and get into all that, right? So I'm a mom of 4 boys I raised, and the oldest is 21 and the youngest is now 17. So anytime I talk to people and I hear these stories, it's natural, right, to apply it to your life. And I look at my kids and I'm like, whoa. Right. I cannot imagine my 19-year-old now having all the life experiences under his belt that you had at 19 years old. What was that? I mean, growing up, were you just always anxious to get out there and go for things? Were you always just jumping all in?
Yeah, I was definitely anxious to go on things. I had 2 jobs in high school. I hated school, so work was easier for me. Okay. I wanted to just work and get out there in the workforce and stuff. So yeah, definitely go, get out in life, get started. type person. I was actually, my first job was a DJ at the roller skating rink.
That's a fun job. I did catch you on the Drinking Brothers podcast talking about that and all the perks. So I would have been like one of those like loser girls skating by herself, probably dreaming about the DJ while you were like hitting on my friends. Like,
of course,
I say friends as if I had friends.
Of course, you dream about being with that DJ with the mullet.
I would have skated right by you. You wouldn't even notice. But yeah, that's actually a fun job to have. And I don't know if people today, the kids today, are they still going to roller rinks and all that? Like, do they know? If not, they're missing out.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't see any. I actually drove by one in a small town last week. I don't know if it was open in the middle of the day. So I was curious. I want to go back through there and find out if it's actually still open.
Yeah. Did you have moves on skates too? Did you get out there on the floor?
I had the moves, and obviously I don't have any ears. So these Frankenstein bolts keep popping out of my head.
I sent that email out like, headphones, please. I'm like, oh shit. And I went back and I looked and I'm like, I have seen you with headphones on.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, but you had the moves. You got to get out there on breaks or whatever. And,
I love dancing, skating backwards, play some Def Leppard, pour some sugar on me and go for it.
Dave, I can't wait to play that back. He hates that song and I love it. Told you, Dave. All right. So now how do you go from DJing at a roller rink to saying, you know what, I think I'm going to join the military instead. But first I'm going to get married.
It happened military. It was weird. So I was not on the right path. Going to work, I dropped out of school, and my uncle talked me into joining the military. Actually, he said, "Hey, let's go to the military together." He's only 6 years older than me. He's like an older brother more.
Okay.
And so he's like, "Let's join the military together." We're both doing the wrong things. I'm looking at Hell's Angels as, those are my father figures type things. The bikers. Sam Elliott was always a hero of mine, watching him on TV and movies. And he always played that cool biker. So to me, that's what I want to be. And luckily, my uncle talked me into joining the Army at 17. I went and took the ASVAB. My uncle took the ASVAB. He failed.
Oh, no.
So then they took me by myself. But it was good for me. It's really good. It helped me out a lot.
Did your uncle wind up getting in?
No, he said, they didn't want me the first time. I'm trying again. Just let me go.
He just pulled the bait and switch. He probably failed it on purpose.
Exactly.
All right. So you're 17 now and you're like, all right, so Hell's Angels aren't going to be it. I'm going to join the military instead. But first I'm going to get married.
Yes. So
at the same time.
Yeah. It's about the same time I was dating a girl. And so I went into the military. I was like, might as well marry her. That's what you're supposed to do, right?
I love that.
So we got married the day before I graduated basic training. They actually let you off post and go get married. I don't know why they let us do that. They know it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I think it's for the old drill sergeant's entertainment, I think.
They take bets, right? And I love, 17-year-olds, you really, thinking back, you think you have it all dialed in. You're like, I got this. Shut up. I'm not a baby anymore. I'm 17.
Everything.
I'm in the military. I got this figured out. And you don't want to hear it. But obviously you were not immune to teenage regret in doing that. But so now you're 17, but you also, not long after that, you deploy.
Yeah, it's the month after turning 19, I deployed to Desert Storm.
Wow. That's wild. What did you in particular do over there? Were you
I was
in the thick of things?
When I first joined, they told me that I can either drive a broken truck or fix a broken truck.
It's quite a choice.
So I thought, is that a tow truck driver? That sounds a lot easier than trying to fix one. So I became a truck driver in the military. And so at Desert Storm, I drove a fuel truck for field artillery tanks. So I just filled up the tanks while they did their battles over there. I was in the first cav. And we were actually supposed to die. We were the decoys.
Oh, my God.
They thought first cav was going to get wiped out because we were the decoys, and we hooked around the left side, went straight into Iraq instead of through Kuwait, where their battle was. So they thought they would get us and then distract them to go up through Kuwait. But luckily, we all came back from that.
I mean, did you know that at the time? Did you know that,
or
did you have a sense like?
I was clueless.
Hey, we're really sort of
Yeah, doing my job.
Aren't you glad you're clueless?
Yes, sir. Right. Yes. Life is easier the less you know.
Oh my gosh, it really is. Ignorant, some cliches exist for a reason, right? And ignorance is definitely bliss. All right. So you come home, now you're 19 years old and you decide to get out of the military. Is that when you got out?
I got out at 20. At 19, I came home.
Okay.
That's when I got divorced.
Okay.
And they started drinking every day because, it's legal.
Sure. Yes, of course it is. Actually, when did they raise the drinking age?
No, yeah, it was bad. Louisiana was legal, but I was in Texas. But I thought I was close enough to the border.
That's close enough.
Didn't matter.
Yeah. Close enough. That counts. And you're close enough to 21. So, all right. So what do you do then? What do you do next?
So at 20 years old, I get out of the military. I go back to California where I was raised, and I moved back into military housing. My stepdad was still in the Navy, so I moved back in with my parents and started looking for work, and then ended up meeting somebody. Got married at 22 again. We had 3 children together, and I had a one child before that. In the mix there, I kind of skipped over where I had that one. Oops. So 4 children together, all together, if we're counting right. He's 26. He knows he's an oops.
Look, sometimes we make the best mistakes, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So now you're married. You have 4 kids, and then along the way you get out of the military. What are you doing now?
Well, that's what I did when I had all that once I was out of the military already.
Right. So, but what are you doing professionally? Other than making babies, yeah.
Is there a profession in that? I don't know if that's legal. But I ended up driving trucks, working for the railroad. I worked at a radio station. I did everything you could think of. I did maintenance at a Jewish community center. I lived in California with no education. So, of course, I worked 4 jobs just to make ends meet. It was crazy.
Yeah. So then all of a sudden you say, you know what? I'm going to go back in.
Well, I always thought about it. I always missed it. I always missed the military. I want to go back in. But my wife at the time did not want to be married to anybody in the military. She's heard about those lifestyles. Everyone was going to be a cop in California. But she, again, didn't want to be married to anybody in uniform. So I didn't do it. And so now I'm like thinking about going back in. I'm 30 years old. Boom, 9/11 happens. And I said, yep, I'm going back in.
Yeah.
So the very next month, October 31st, I was back in basic training.
Yep. And that is a common theme, 9/11 happening. It's interesting, right? It seems like there were a couple different responses. It either riled people up where they were like, you're going to go get some, or it made people like hunker down closer at home and just focus on their families and keeping everyone safe, like, keeping the home front steady, right? So now your wife, and I'm familiar with that part of it because when I got married, my husband was not in the military. He had been in the military, got out.
And then, same situation.
And then at one point, as soon as I get pregnant with our first kid, he's like, I really want to go back in, but I resisted the full time. I'm like, I'm not going to be a military wife, right? I got no business in public in general, but let alone on a base in small housing. So he joined the National Guard, said that was safe, and whoops. Turned out he was wrong about that. But yeah, I do get that. And joking aside, it is a very difficult and draining life for anyone in particular. I mean, obviously there's a lot of good that goes into it, but in terms of keeping a family together, it's very draining and hard on a family unit.
Yes, like your experience, like my wife at the time, where had no idea what the military is like. You're going in with a family already. Yeah. And it's so to deal with all that. And I went back in active duty, Fort Bragg, 82nd Airborne. So we were busy. We were really busy.
Yeah.
So she had to adapt quick.
Yep. I hear you. That's so funny. Fort Bragg just keeps coming. I spent, 3 years for a murder trial there, but, I get that. It's very hard when you don't have that community around and you're home, you're taking care of kids and you're worried that your spouse is, something terrible is going to happen. It's a lot to handle. So, unfortunately, a lot of marriages don't survive that.
Right.
Yeah. So you got deployed more than once. You were deployed several times.
Yeah. A total of 4 times. So once counting Desert Storm, and then 3 times during Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Yeah. And it was in 2007 on your 4th deployment that, as you say, you discovered that 3rd time was your charm.
Yes. It took 4 tours and ID to figure out 3 was my lucky number.
Yeah, I hate that hindsight, right? So So you are the sole survivor of the IED explosion that.
Yeah, they said it was, I saw the report later on it. It was 3 to 4 155 artillery shells that were buried in the ground underneath the Humvee.
Oh my
that went up.
gosh. Wow. It is like literally a miracle that you survived that.
Oh, it is definitely a miracle. I mean, doctors kept saying medically they couldn't explain why I was alive. It
Yeah.
didn't make any sense to them.
Does that ever play in? And I saw a comment before, I can't remember if I saw it on your Instagram or an interview or article I read on you, but that prior to you being injured, you were an atheist?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was atheist. I grew up Catholic, not real strict Catholic, but just as I got older, I didn't like the rules of religion where they say, this person could hurt a child, rape somebody, kill somebody. Oh, okay, I'm sorry now. Please let me go to heaven. Like, I don't like those rules. So I was like, forget it. I don't believe any of that. But
Okay.
When I woke up from my coma, I was in a coma for 2 weeks. And I woke up and I remember being like on a giant iceberg. It's the best way to explain it. It's at night, a giant iceberg, all kinds of stars everywhere. And I heard voices coming out of the night saying that my family's waiting for me. I'm going to be okay. And so when I woke up, I knew like, okay, there was someone, I felt I was in heaven and God was judging me and saying, look, there's something else for you. You're not done yet. And it drove me crazy. I mean, the survival guilt, thinking, no, you should have took me. I felt like a burden to my family. So every night for the first year, I would pray to God just to take me.
Yeah.
I didn't feel I deserved to live.
Yeah. And that again is a very unfortunate, common theme for too many people, not, obviously not just in the military, but for a lot of people. So your story is going to resonate with so many people. I remember that after my husband was killed, and I came up with, I called it, I was passively suicidal at some point. Like I used to just like do things that would like slightly, well, I may not survive, like take chances
that risk.
Or lay there and like pray to die. So I'm not like actively killing myself, but if it happens,
going skydiving,
right?
No, I don't need a reserve. It doesn't work.
Like,
the first one doesn't work, forget it.
And it's easy to joke about like when you look back, but it's actually a hellish place to be trapped in, to do that. And you have to put on that brave face. And on top of that, you were dealing with enormous physical pain and injuries and the mental stress, I guess, that comes with accepting and acknowledging. I mean, you just had a lot. Your life just changed.
The depression of just losing your independence, and you're the person that takes care of other people, and now your children are helping you tie your shoe or making sure you don't trip on something, and helping with your bandages, and you just feel so useless. It's hard, really, really hard.
Yeah. What would be your advice to somebody who may be experiencing something similar now, whether through the military or an accident or whatever it may be?
As far as survival guilt goes, I try to talk about that as much as I can. I just recently made a video about it. Because again, I don't think it ever goes away.
No.
It's always kind of there. And I know that I got to live for them. I know that. But it still hits you sometimes. You're like, you start getting depressed again. Just like everybody, we have our moments. So what I do is I remind myself, what if I was the one that didn't make it home? What would I want for the survivor? Of course, I'd want that survivor to live their life to the fullest, to chase their dreams, to have a blessed life, to live for us. If I waste my life, if we waste our life, we're a survivor of something like that, then we're letting them die in vain. Here they would rather be alive, and we're going to complain about a little bit of pain or, oh, I don't feel good today, I should be killed, I should be dead. No, keep living your life. Now you're going to have those feelings, so it's okay to get that pity pot. Don't get me wrong. You can't stop those feelings from coming in, but you can address them correctly and let yourself have that time out, have that pity pot, feel bad, get it out of your system, but then remind yourself, I got to keep going for them.
I love all of that. It takes a long time. I don't know. I shouldn't say that as if that's the same for everybody. For me, it took a very long time to hit that place where I got what you just said. How long did it take you to arrive at a place where you believe that what you just said?
That was probably around the 4-year mark, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 3 years to kind of get used to just who I am, what I look like, and my disabilities, to accept the new normal all the way. Whether I acted like I already did a year or 2 years into it, really 3 years is when I really truly felt happy with who I am. And I look back at old pictures of me and go, who's that guy? This is me. And about 4 years, if I could really, 4 to 5 years, where I could really say that I got past that hump where I've learned that. But again, I remade that video just recently about survivor's guilt because I was feeling it. I don't let it get me down as much as it did before, but it definitely will hit me from time to time. You think about it. I have a very blessed life, amazing life of the things I get to do today. I have 3 grandchildren.
Wow.
and just that alone is the best blessings ever, besides my life of traveling and entertaining and talking to people and just having all the joy that I have in my life. There's so much.
Yeah. And so I know that you don't remember really what happened the day of your injury or anything. Were you ever told what happened afterwards? Like, did you ever have to sit down and did they try to get the information out of you anyway? Or was it like you were told, hey, this
at the hospital, they just said I was hit by an IED and that I was the only survivor. I learned all that while I was in the hospital. But the actual details of the story, I didn't learn till it was like 3 years later, 3 to 4 years later. I was back in Iraq.
Why?
They do Operation Proper Exit. Troops First Foundation does this.
Okay.
And they bring wounded veterans back out to Afghanistan, Iraq, if they're ready to go back and actually properly exit the country standing on their own, well, not necessarily their own 2 feet,
right,
but prosthetic or whatever, but they're standing up the right way and not laying, an emergency going to a hospital. So you go back and you visit the different bases and you talk to the soldiers that are out there today and you just share your story, and it's just an amazing trip. So
that is amazing.
To do that. Yeah, I did it 3 times.
Wow. Well, 3 is your number. Yeah.
Right. It is.
Good thing you didn't go back a 4th time. Don't go back.
It's really healing, an amazing thing. My unit was out there. Some of the guys from my unit were out there again on another deployment. So they met up with me in one of the Saddam's palaces there in Baghdad, and they brought photos. They brought the report. Like, this is what happened to you. Here's the photos. You'll see a lot of times I'll post. That's actually my Humvee that I'm posting because I got the photos afterwards and the details of what exactly happened. Yeah.
Have you ever met any of the medics or the people that got to you and got you out?
I met there was one guy I knew in my unit that pulled me out of the vehicle. He had a hard time. Another version of survivor's guilt is I was there to replace him. He was the head mechanic, staff sergeant, but he was running a lot of convoys because they were shorthanded. We lost 22 guys that year.
Wow.
So they needed a truck driver, staff sergeant to come in to take his place. So I was only there in country 3.5 weeks, maybe 2 weeks actually with the unit. So that's his seat that I was sitting in.
Oh, wow.
So he had a hard time, but he's the one that actually pulled me out. I was choking on a couple of my teeth. He pulled those out of my mouth and extinguished me. And so he wouldn't talk to me.
Oh.
And once I got home, because he felt guilty.
Yeah.
He had survivor's guilt, from that. But I was just wanted to thank him. Like I found his grandmother. I started looking online. I found his grandmother and I said, look, I just want to tell him thank you. And so luckily I said that. Otherwise he would not have called me back.
Oh, wow. So you did ultimately get to talk to him?
Yeah, I got to talk to him. I went to Missouri and actually was going there to see a baseball game and to speak to the Jewish synagogue there. And I knew I was going to meet him the next day. I mean, I already know him, but I was going to see him again for the first time the next day. But they surprised me. I threw out the first pitch for the minor league game, and then he walked out of the other dugout.
Holy
so, yeah, like I'm getting emotional thinking about now.
Yeah.
So it just threw me off. It was a wonderful surprise. And we got to hang out all weekend and talk. So it was really wonderful.
Wow.
I mean, there are onions in here?
There are. I sent them to you and had someone open them and leave them in there. I got up today and I'm like, I'm going to make Bobby Henline cry today. So check. Okay. So we'll move on. I've seen you say or quote from yourself where you talk about how after your injury, you actually became more confident in some ways than you were before. And I love seeing that because sometimes people look at me, well, a lot of times people look at me like I'm crazy, right? Sometimes, but it's not always justified because I've said there's something about going through immense trauma. And I certainly didn't go through anything like what you went through, but, entirely different, but still very traumatic to me. Coming through it and coming out the other side is almost liberating, right? Because there's almost nothing that I can do today. And I'm like, well, what's the worst that can happen? Like if I make an ass of myself, I'm like,
yeah, it just puts life in perspective.
Yes,
for you,
like
right?
I've had much worse days. I've got through much worse. And you realize like, is that along the line of what you're saying or what you're feeling? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, once I got used to the way I looked and everything like that, I was fine with it. And then it's like, wow, but I'm alive. But, I get to hold my grandchildren. I got kids that went through college already and got some still in college, and they're just already learning and growing. And I get to be here because of that. I'm still here. My life was saved. I got to be happy, be confident about life.
Isn't that cool? If you could look back at Bobby Henline right after you got injured or in those first few years, do you hear even the difference in what you're just saying now, how you used to pray to die? Like you were mad that you were alive. And now if you could have gone back, like, would you ever have believed that you would get to the day where you would celebrate being alive? Like where?
No. I mean, people say it all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, I couldn't do what you do. If this happened to me, I couldn't. I said, you don't know until you've been tested. You really don't know. Because if you would have told me, hey, guess what? You're going to get blown up. Your head's going to be burnt to the skull. You're going to lose your left hand. You're going to have all these issues. You can't walk. You got to stay out in the sun. And all this stuff's going to happen to you. But you know what? You're going to survive it all. And you're going to make jokes about it. You're going to travel the world telling jokes about how this happened to you. Like, right. Sure, I'm going to do that. Whatever. Yeah.
Isn't that cool how that works out, though? Do you find
amazing.
now, because you're so good and you're so convincing and you're just so genuinely happy, even now, like coming through, you can just feel like a positive energy about you. Do you find that it ever, like, are you ever having to almost remind people, like, dude, back off, I got this going? Like, do people just expect you to be happy all the time? Like, it's no big deal. Like, he's got it. Like, just or start to
they expect me to do a whole lot more. And
Yeah.
I do as much as I can, but I do have my days where I'm like, I need to be left alone.
Yeah.
I'm having a little PTSD anxiety moment here, and I've learned to deal with it, and I can. But there are times where I just don't want to. I can't. I just frustrated, and I want to be left alone. I don't want to be funny.
Right.
But you feel like I got to turn on, talk to everybody.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
I just want to sit here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of energy, and I love that I'm able to do it, but there's times I just need to take care of me. And that took me many, many years. I mean, really till last year to really say, all right, I need to take care of me and give myself some timeouts and just get to be me.
That's another enormous hurdle to get through in all these, whatever you want to call them, stages of growth or whatever it is. But it is another significant place to get to when you start to realize that.
Because it helps me helping others. I mean, that's part of my healing and distraction too. Sometimes distracts me from my reality, which is kind of nice. We like to get distracted. You go to movies and stuff like that. You go to a comedy show. Well, I get to be the show. That's my distraction. I get to put a smile on your face, and I love doing that. But again, I got to remember I need some healing all the time too. To keep that upkeep on my own body and mind.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely get that. So you're still doing a lot today. In addition to traveling and speaking and entertaining people, what's typically when you're going to do a comedy routine, what's the 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour? Like what's the general?
Yeah, it will vary. If
slot?
I'm doing motivational speaking, stuff like that, I'll share my story and I'll do it an hour and a half, depending on the event. If it's a straight comedy club, I'll do anywhere from 10 to 30 to 40 minutes, just depending on the set.
On the set. Have you had a moment where you just tanked on stage?
Yeah, I bombed before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even on that Huckabee thing, there's a part where I kind of lose it. People probably don't even realize it, but I know in my head what I want to do.
Yeah.
So if I got more time than to do what comedy they want me to do. They gave me more time than they originally said. So it's like, okay, I added a couple more jokes in there, but then I added too many jokes. So then as I'm watching the clock tick down on the camera in front of me, I'm like, okay, wait, I got to skip that joke, but I got to lose. So I'm telling a joke, but in my head, I'm having this whole conversation. And then it comes out of my mouth like, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, no, I caught that when you actually said, but yes. But it just rolled right in, like part of it. And
I think so many years, it's been 11 years. So you've kind of fumble and you go with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen, right?
Keep going.
You're going to have all sorts of crazy shit that happens going on. But in addition to that, you're also, you have your own speakers bureau, which looks pretty cool, by the way, except for the fact you have no gold star wise, Bobby. What the hell? But
well,
anyway.
I will call Jamie and I will yell at her and say, why don't we?
And speaking of Jamie, that's your fiance, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah. She has also a very powerful story herself.
Yes, very powerful story, and really trying to get her to talk about it. When we started the Speakers Bureau, that was the first she really started talking about it.
Yeah.
And I kept trying to push her more. She pushed us to share our stories. We're like, push your story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's still hard for her. It's happened in 2003.
Right.
And it's actually coming up November 20th.
Oh, wow.
Is the date. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's always so weird knowing what to do on that day. I got so many widow friends who call it like their angel anniversary. My husband's angel. And I'm like, I call it the dead anniversary, like, and I do weird shit because I'm like, I could never embrace the, and then you're always
like Mexico, like the Walking of the Dead. So was that the dead? What is that celebration they do?
I don't even know. But yeah, it's always like, you feel like you should be doing something on that day, but like,
yeah.
What are you
Some
supposed to do?
a celebration.
Yeah.
Jamie's more of a distracting herself.
Yes.
She'll need some alone time, but she needs some distraction too, and trying to figure out, okay, when do I distract her? When do I just let her be?
Yeah. That's hard enough on a normal day for any relationship.
Yeah, for any woman.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it is. I actually, poor Dave, man, I looked at him the other night. He's like, hey, you want to hang out? And I was like, I don't really find it. I just looked at him. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what's up. I just feel like a raging bitch right now. And I just need to like not be a bitch to you for no reason. He's like, okay, have a good night.
Okay, good night.
Okay, then. But yeah, that's hard. So you guys met, and I love that. I don't know if you feel like certain things about fate leading you to where you're supposed to be, or meeting a certain person, but like recognizing an opportunity. But you guys definitely seem to have met specifically on purpose by someone. Like somebody guided you guys together. Yeah.
That was crazy. She actually hired me to be a speaker for her company.
Yeah.
She wanted me to be a speaker. And I was like, well, whatever she was like, what's it take to get you here? I'm like, well, whatever you guys, your budget allows, airfare, hotel, I said, it's not about the money. And she's like, that's not how you do business. I'm going to help you. This is how you do business. And she was already helping another speaker, Kevin Briggs, the Garden of the Golden Gate. He's a California Highway Patrol guy. And so she was already helping him, plus having a full-time job, and said, I can help you. She goes, I don't know if you want me to help you, but I can help you if you want me to. And so then I found out her birthday was the same day as my Alive Day, April 7th. And I said, we're supposed to work together. This is supposed to happen. And so that's why we started working together. And she started helping me do the business side and managing. And then, of course, once she started helping me, she'd come to different places, and we saw the other veterans doing the same thing. They didn't know how to ask for money. They really wanted to make a difference. They want to keep serving. It helped them, but they need to get a paycheck too. They need to do the business side of it. And that overwhelms us. I know me, I will turn down all kinds of money if I got to do paperwork. Yeah.
Plus it's really hard, right? When you're the speaker, somebody comes to you and says, oh, Bobby, I'm so impressed by you. I'm so inspired by you. You come speak. And you're like, okay, that'll be $5,000 or $10,000 or 20, or like whatever it is, right? It puts you in the awkward position, and it sort of puts like a bump. It's much easier to say, hey, here's my manager's number or whatever, give him a call. I'd love to come talk. Please work it out with her, and that just puts like a step of.
Makes life so much easier, less stressful.
It really does. Plus it preserves the relationship you have with that person, right? Any bickering over terms is separate from what you're able to deliver. I just think that just adds another layer of protection there for you. Just my thoughts. I don't know.
Yes, it is. And so we realized other veterans needed the same thing. So that's why we started the Speakers Bureau.
Yeah, I hear you. All right. So you're working with veterans. You're also doing a nonprofit. Busy man.
Which we started right before COVID. So that was real fun.
I hear you. I know. Surprise.
Like all those plans you had, you're gonna have to wait a year.
Yes. Yeah, I know. We all are putting those plans on the shelf for a little bit. But are you still moving ahead, making your plans and setting up to go?
Yes, definitely doing our plans, doing stuff. We still was able to do a few things. The remembrance tags we have, veterans that have died by suicide is one of our big missions. Of course, it's all about suicide prevention, helping veterans, Gold Star families, and first responders.
Yeah, and it's called Forging Forward, right?
Right, because of what I went through, I forged forward through the fire.
I'd say you did.
Right?
Yes.
Got through it.
Say you continue to do so.
I do catch some heat again now and then. Usually my mouth causes that problem.
Yes, that happens. That does also tend to happen. All right. So, but you're planning, say, looking 6 months ahead, say COVID goes away, whatever it is, and we're back up and running. What are your plans with Forging Forward?
So what we want to do is we want to bring, again, it's veterans, it's Gold Star families and first responders together. Whether they want to meet together or not, or separate groups, we'll decipher that. I know there's some issues with you and I talking. Not that we have it, but wounded veterans.
I'm like, dude, you have an issue with me, man? Huh?
Sometimes it's not the Gold Star families. It's the veterans that like, I don't know what to say.
Dude, we do creep people out, which is really hard. But you know what? I've been to events, obviously, for Families of the Fallen. And one of these events, it was on the way back when we were leaving. Now, I had 4 little kids with me. They're so little cute kids. They're matching shirts. Like everybody used to look at them because they were adorable, right? And also very tragic. People would look at me, be uncomfortable. They couldn't look at me. They didn't know what to say. But at one point, our group ran into a group of wounded veterans that were coincidentally also on some sort of event and returning, right? So they're at the gates. At one gate is, the families of death. And then at the other gate is the families of near death, right? And everyone's like, what? But slowly it was the kids that came over. When I look up, there was one little kid on a lap with a guy who had a prosthetic arm or like a mechanical arm. He's spinning around. The kid's like, what? And slowly, like our families came over and their families come. And before you know it, all these guys had little kids on their laps. We were all sharing stories and giving hugs and laughing and crying. And it was
awesome.
Genuinely one of the most beautiful moments where they got to see that, our families want them, just like you were saying.
Yes.
Like, we want you all to be happy and live and survive. And then that made our families feel good, feeling like we were sort of able to put that to rest for those guys. So that was cool. I would encourage you to blend.
Yes.
Even if your wounded veterans are like, no,
right. Twist them a little bit. Yeah.
Bring them in.
Surprise. Guess what? We got a speaker.
Yeah. Bring it in. I mean, trust me, some of the best things have to go through a little bit of resistance first to get there. But that's cool.
We want to teach them outlets. I know I speak ADD, so good luck trying to keep track on this show.
You do that? No, it's going great. Yeah, give them outlets to
give them outlets. And I've learned over the years that the poetry writing, the comedy writing, songwriting, that stuff really helped me. Even going to one of those paint with a twist or wine into design, whatever you call them, it just takes your mind off of things. And who cares what it looks like? It's going to look beautiful.
Yeah.
And so those type of outlets is healing.
It's to have that go-to where instead of relying on, 6 more months, I can go to another event. What are you going to do in between those 6 months?
Yeah.
To kind of.
So I want to introduce them to these different things, even welding and the forging.
Yeah.
To me, I haven't done it yet, but I just know if I can go in the garage and pound out a sword or a knife, that's just going to feel good physically. And to take those demons and turn it into an art form. Yeah. It's going to be exciting. So that's another one thing. I've already teamed up with a couple of different forgers. So I'm excited to get things rolling.
And how appropriate, Forging Forward. Like that's
right?
That's pretty prophetic there. All
There's a theme happening here.
There is a theme. Your life is full of them. So, on top of COVID going away, we also have this whole political insanity going on in this country. And you were recently sucked right into that. Just minding your own business, going about your day.
That happy, jolly weirdo. I got my opinion, but I just want to make people laugh. I don't really get involved in political stuff. But yeah, like you said, I was, hello, you're part of it now.
So, did you just get up one day and see social media blowing up and there you are?
I didn't even see it myself right away. I got text messages. I got DMs sent to me. Did you see this? What's going on? What did I see? Oh, no, this has got to get taken down.
Yeah.
So that, you saw I jumped on there and said, take this down and threw a tantrum.
Yeah. And so ultimately they did. But what is that like to be just unwillingly kind of drawn right in and put in the public eye for a reason that you didn't choose?
Uncomfortable, because it's uncomfortable ground that I don't feel comfortable talking about that stuff.
You don't want to go, you don't want to talk about
Yeah.
your political.
I don't want to sit there and fight with somebody over something that neither one of us really know the total facts, right?
Right.
Because we're only hearing half the stories on both sides.
Right.
So it's just an uncomfortable thing that I just want to get into. But now I am. Now I've been doing research and I'm very happy. And now, because of what they did to me, I'm going to fight all the way to the end, to this election.
What are you fighting for?
I'm fighting for the train.
All right, good. So let's talk then, because I know that you have at least you have to have a couple of friends that are on the opposite train, right? I think one of them is
family.
Brad Garrett, right? I see him. I started following him online, and he's like crazy, like not crazy, but like he's very blatantly out there, and he's like angry.
Right.
He's an angry Democrat, I think.
Yes.
So how do you extract the politics from that friendship?
Just don't talk about it.
Just don't talk about it, yeah.
Even when I did his podcast, you hear in the beginning of his podcast, he makes fun of Trump. And he says, oh my God, I hope Bobby's still there. Don't hang up, Bobby.
Yeah.
We just kind of let that go. We leave it alone. I see stuff he posts. I got, it's not just him. I got other friends and other comedian friends even. And of course they make their jokes. And I don't even do political jokes. I don't like doing political jokes.
Right.
It's not funny.
It's not funny. Well, especially when people are going for we're going to a comedy show to escape that, right? Like we're going to forget about the things that stress us out and make us unhappy and worry us and concern us. We just need to straight up laugh without feeling guilty. Or like you're going with your friend who's like the opposite beliefs of you, and then these jokes start coming, and all of a sudden the arms get crossed, and everyone has to leave. Like, that's just a little bit of a.
Comedians have done, and I forget who it was. I was watching one a few months ago. They did their Trump jokes, and they were funny. Like they're creative. Be creative, be funny about it. But when you're making up stuff, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, or you're just like nasty about it, right?
Yeah.
All right. Is there something that you love to talk about in interviews or in general that people just don't think to ask you? Like, what is it about Bobby? Something you have going on, a pastime or a hobby that you're super into or you enjoy doing and people just don't know about you?
I like bowling, long walks on the beach.
Oh, very nice. That's very nice.
No, I don't know if there's anything exciting that people miss. I eat weird. I eat tuna and jelly.
No, come on.
I do. I actually had a sandwich today with jalapeno bread, tuna and jelly. It's so good.
Dude, that's just disgusting. Would you like all your taste buds get burned off?
That's a good one.
That's just
that down. I'm writing that note down.
That's just gross,
Ever
man.
since I was a kid, I always liked that. My mom said,
how
hey,
did
do you want a peanut butter
fumble?
jelly? Yeah, she's like, you want a peanut butter jelly sandwich or you want a tuna sandwich? I said, I want tuna and jelly. She's like, no, you're not going to eat it. What do you want? I told her that's what I wanted. So she made it for me. Goes, fine, here. Been eating it ever since.
Oh, and then at some way you just introduced the jalapeno bread.
Yeah, that was at Subway when I did that. Well, first it was just adding jalapenos. Like I'll get the tuna sandwich with the jalapenos, take it home, put jelly on it. But then I found this jalapeno bread at the Amish store here. So why not?
I guess why not?
So I have weird taste in food.
So yes, you do have weird taste in food. I'm sorry. I'm glad I didn't ask that in the beginning of the show because it would have just kept me like completely distracted. Okay. Bobby Henline, what is next for you in terms of you got your nonprofit, you're going to start forging swords and stuff, which that's cool. I'm going to get back to you when you're doing that. I want to see you with your first sword.
You're a gold star wife. You could come out and make one with us.
There you go. Maybe I have a secret sword talent that I haven't tapped into.
Yeah, you don't even know. See, that's the thing is we don't know what we can do, right?
Yes.
Welding, you might like it, you might not, but it's too expensive just to go get into something and find out you don't really don't like it. So that's why we want to do these introductions. Like
that's cool.
This might help you.
It might indeed. All right.
It might scare all your friends, but.
Oh, I know. I do that on a regular basis, I think. All right. So Dave and I started American Snippets a few years ago, back when we first realized the divisiveness was hitting our country. For me, again, as a Gold Star wife who had given so much, I found that it was actually reversing some of the progress I'd made in my healing, where I just felt like people were completely ungrateful and shitting on our country. And I was like, what did we go through all this for if everybody hates it, So, but then I started to take stock and realize all the amazing people in my life, the amazing people that are still doing incredible things in this country. And I knew that if we could get those stories out the way that those stories came and helped me, maybe that would be our way of reversing some of the negativity, in this country. But part of that was standing up for the American dream, because part of what we heard was that the American dream is a fallacy. It's dead. It's over. It's only for certain people. But we know that's not true. We also know the reality is that the American dream is not a cookie cutter version. It looks different for everybody. We all have our own version of it, and that's where the beauty lies. So we'd like to ask you, what's your version of the American dream?
My version is getting that beach house and just doing my nonprofit and helping others. Like, I don't want to keep touring around forever. I maybe got a couple more years left in me. I'm not real old. I just turned 49. But I have 3 grandchildren that I want to spend time with. I still want to continue to help others and serve through my nonprofit and enjoy my family at a beach house. That's my American dream.
See, and that's beautiful. And I think you've more than earned it. And so have your grandkids deserve that time with you. Bobby Henline, I could keep you all day because this has been super fun for me. But I know time is a ticking and you're a busy man. So I'm going to let you go with my greatest thanks for taking the time to sit down with us today. But before we do, if people want to get in touch with you, they want to follow you, they want to find one of your speakers to come on out, they want to get involved with your nonprofit, where can they find all things Bobby Henline?
Of course, Bobby Henline on social media. I have a rare name, so Bobby Henline on any social media platform. I'll be on there. Bravo748.com if you're looking for a speaker. We got myself and lots of other veterans talking about military sexual trauma, leadership, PTSD, of course, comedians, musicians, all kinds of talent. So check us out at Bravo748.com. There's also the welldonecomedian.com. where you can find out more about me, and the forgingforward.org for the nonprofit.
Okay, excellent. We will put all those links in the article that we do as well. In the meantime, please do not hesitate to reach out to us if there's something we can do. If you got news coming up, we'll be happy to spread it out to our community as well.
Awesome. Excited. Thank you so much.